Good morning from Football Focus UAE, and what a busy Christmas weekend of action we had here with football in the UAE. 3 games took place on Christmas Day and 4 games on Boxing Day. And I have to say this is our final show for 2020. As you know, my name's Anthony Howland and we have Ian Besto with us. And what we're going to get straight into the action, and we're going to begin with Al Ain versus Kalba, the Hazard bin Zayed Stadium in the capital Abu Dhabi. These two teams have played 3 times and have had 2 draws and 1 win in the favour of Al Ain. However, as we spoke about before, Ian, Kalba have been the surprise package this season. They're a team that are well organised, made some really good signings over the COVID-19 breakdown. So what we're going to see what happened. So over to you, Ian. What happened here?
Well, yeah, I just want to sort of reiterate what we've just said there. Kalba are well organised. I think that's the big thing. They play together as a team and they look as though they're a real team unit.
But they have made some good signings as well. You think of David Mariani and Junior Fernandez.
Yeah, they have got some players, and I'm going to look at David and do a little breakdown on him towards the end. But yeah, they have, and it's really nice to see. We see so many sort of disjointed teams where it's teams have strong defences or strong midfields or strong forward lines, but not a team unit. And you can see that the players get on with each other. You know that they play well for each other. They're not a team of individuals, and that's why they're in the position they are. You know, they're not a team of superstars by any means, but they work together as a team, which is great.
I tell you what I like when we spoke to David Mariani. He said that they do a lot of things together as a team. Yeah, something he hasn't encountered here before, and I thought that's obviously going to make a difference if you're getting together.
It's essential, isn't it? You know,
for collegiality.
Exactly. You know, we know the best teams from around the world do stuff outside of football, and they need to be. You know, they don't necessarily have to be the best of friends, but they've got to be working towards a common goal and trying to achieve that. So, you know, that's great. Yeah. But looking at the game, it was
not much to write home about.
A draw was a fair result. Both teams were looking for the win, but not trying too hard. You know, I think they both were. If they were given a point at the start of the game, they both would have taken it. Al Ain's first goal was a defensive mistake. The ball should have been cleared by a defender and the goalkeeper, and it wasn't, which was disappointing. And then apart from that, really, there wasn't any real clear-cut chances.
I thought Al Ain were the better team overall and maybe in the first half, but Kalba did come good in the second half.
Yeah, they did.
The substitute had a couple of good chances, which one went in.
Yeah. And poor...
what happened to Shiatani?
Poor Shiatani, that's his second own goal in a fortnight. And it was just one of those... It was unlucky as the ball got sort of slid past the goalkeeper.
I thought he would have got it. He just didn't catch it.
But I think the goalkeeper didn't help himself out. Obviously, the goalkeeper's got to try and save the shot. But I think the shot was actually going wide. And by the keeper touching it, it just changed the rotation of the spin a little bit. And actually took it towards the goal. Shiatani's tried his very best to get there and just... It's one of those things, and another day he would have knocked it wide, and he was just very, very unlucky. So
he took one for the team on that goal.
He did. But that's 2-2 for Shiatani now, just unfortunately at the wrong end. But as we said, neither team had any real sort of clear-cut chances, and overall I think both would be happy with that point. Yeah. As we mentioned David Mariani, he's currently second in the stats league, so for this season. And I just want to mention the reasons why I think that is. He's brilliant at finding these little pockets of space between the midfield and the forwards, and the opposition don't quite know who should be picking him up. He's almost sort of ghosts through that midfield, and that you can see the defenders and midfielders thinking, well, who's picking him up? Yeah. And then when he's got time on the ball,
he's a good passer.
He's deadly. You know, his range of passing with his left foot is excellent. He can go long, he can go short. He's able to change the tempo of the game very, very quickly. Yeah. He can play that really fast ball in, and then he goes and supports it. You know, you'll see a lot of players will play these balls, and that's almost like my job done and sit back. But then he wants that ball straight back again. And as we've mentioned before, one of his huge assets, he's a real team player. Yeah. You know, he's not there. It's not about me. It's a common goal for the team. Which
and he enjoys it as well, being here in the UAE. You'll see our interview in the new year, but he does enjoy playing here. He does enjoy Kalba and the way they play, and I think it suits his game. They give him that free role, as you were saying. Yeah,
and he's enjoying it.
He's a player to watch out for, really.
But yeah, a good result for both teams. I think, like I said at the start, both teams would have taken a point, and they're both still in the hunt. Just if they can another win or two, just maybe move them out of that pack, because it's very tight in that middle area, and maybe get them both challenging for the top 3 spots.
Fantastic, especially for Kalba. All right, thanks for
definitely.
that, Ian. Well, we're going to move on to Hatta versus Fujairah. I was actually commentating on this match, and I have to say it was a game, the classic cliche, it was a game of two halves, Ian. You could see clearly Hatta came out to win this game. They came out with a positive mentality. They wanted to win. Because it'll give you a little bit of history. Hatta 3 or 4 years ago, they were a team that were always challenging for the championship. But they've kind of dropped down a little bit. But this season, they do look a little bit better. And this game, if they won this game, which they did, it puts them back up there with the big boys and challenging for the league. So they had to do it not just for themselves. They also had to do it for the fans. And so they came out. What I like, they came out to win the game, Ian. Whereas Fujairah they came with a different mentality, not to lose. And that's very different. Fujairah would have been happy with a 1-0 win, and they were looking at parking the bus, defending a lot, and then get a goal on the break. And we know Fujairah can play football, they're a good team, but tactically I think it was a mistake because Hatta dominated, they could have had a lot of goals, and Fujairah changed that tactic in the second half, and they went to their passing. I think you mentioned it a few times, they can pass, and they were the better team in the second half, and it could have ended up a draw. I think Hatta were lucky in the end, but the 2 goals that came were phenomenal. The first goal was Mpoku's. Who looks very good. He picked the ball up in the midfield, he dropped his shoulder, went past one player, and it rifled a shot in the top corner, and it was an absolute beauty. It's a real contender for the month, goal of the month. And then the second goal was by the captain, Khalil, who to me was a man of the match, and he could have had an hat-trick if you watch the game. He picks the ball up from Lee on the left wing, drops his shoulder on the 18-yard line, gets it on his right foot, and hits a sweet as a nut, curls it into the top corner, Ian. As I always like to say, top corner, top class. If they'd had 2 goalkeepers, Ian, they couldn't have stopped that goal. And then that was right on the break of half time. How Fujairah came out with a different mentality. Hatta made a couple of substitutions more defensive, and Fujairah dominated the game. They got the 1 goal, and it kind of livened things up a little bit. But in the end, Hatta got that deserved win that puts them up there now with the big boys. And I think if Fujairah would have won, it would have put a little bit more space. I think they're okay. We've said in the past in our shows that they're okay. I think they're going to stay up this season because Hatta and Ajman are doing so bad at the moment. I mean, they're just losing. They haven't even won, these 2 teams. No. So I think Fujairah, their next match is against Fakkan. I'm going to be actually commentating on that game. It'll either be a draw or a win for Fujairah. I don't think Fakkan will win. Fujairah look a better passing side, and Goran's going back to his old club. So he'll want to do the business and prove that he made the right decision. So I think they'll win. But anyway, that's my analysis. It was a game of 2 halves with 2 fantastic goals. And Fujairah, if they'd gone with that similar mentality, we can win this game. Let's go for it. They didn't.
It's quite interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to say about teams parking the bus. What we've seen in the Pro League this year is a lot of the weaker teams, the Hattas, the Ajmans, Fujairahs to a certain extent, when they're struggling, this seems to be their default. Right, we're going to stick everyone behind the ball, and we'll try and grab something in a break. They do that even when they're winning. I had to 2-0 up. Let's go for parking the bus.
But the problem is, you can only really do that if you've got a well-structured, well-disciplined, good players to do that. It's so difficult to do, and people just assume, "Oh, we'll stick 11 people behind the ball, and it's no problem." Well, it isn't.
Yeah.
And Fujairah aren't that sort of team. Like we said before, they're a passing team. They like to get the ball down.
Yeah.
And like you said, they changed the second half.
And they were the better side.
for it.
And if you look at the stats, which you'll see, it was almost similar. I think Fujairah had more shots on goals, but it was 50-50 on possession because of that second half. But they went with that first half mentality, let's not lose.
No.
And I think it was a wrong mentality. Play to your strengths.
Exactly.
They've got a weak defence, no matter if they park the bus.
Yeah.
I think if they just went with that playing and passing game,
Especially over the
got some out of the game.
last 2-3 weeks, they've been focusing on that, playing the ball out from the back, getting it down, moving it quickly.
And look what they did against Shabab Al-Athli, 3-2
Exactly.
up. But anyway, enough said. Fujairah, I've got a massive game with Khor again. What do you call it? The classic 6-pointer of relegation battle.
Yeah.
As in, whoever wins that, they've really put themselves in a good position to stay in the league.
Yeah, big game.
All right, Ian, let's move on to your next game.
Al Dhafra versus Al Nasr. Well, Al Nasr needed that win. You know, they lost last week.
They needed it.
They
definitely.
are one of the top 3 teams in the league. There's no getting around that. The defence is strong, as we know. They're very well organised. They had to win, and they did. It was a brilliant game to watch. It was end-to-end stuff. There was goal mouth opportunities from both teams. Goals disallowed. It was, from a neutral's point of view, it was a brilliant game. And
cracking game.
And it could have, to be honest, the first sort of 10, 15 minutes could have gone even way. Al Dhafra,
I saw that,
sort of sat back, they soaked up the pressure, they did it well, they parked the bus well for that sort of 10, 15 minutes, soaked the pressure, let Al Nasr come
chances, didn't they?
And they had 2 unbelievable breakaway opportunities.
That fantastic ball from the midfield.
Bang, bang, through.
Volleyed it over the net.
And 2 golden opportunities. If they'd have put them in, they would have been 15 minutes in, 2-0 up, and it's a different story.
I watched Al Dhafra, they do struggle scoring.
Yeah,
they need a goal scorer.
And that was the main difference. And then Al Nasr managed to settle a little bit, got back to the game plan, got the ball moving. As we said,
come in and Mendes.
They're very, very disciplined from front to back, and they're very difficult to break down. So if you don't take the opportunities when they present themselves, you know they've got no chance. They started to dominate possession, ended up about 68% possession for Al Dhafra. Having said that, for Al Nasr, but Al Dhafra still has had 10 shots throughout the game. So they've still created chances, which is good against
But they're just not putting away, are they?
But
I saw them against Hatta, they won 1-0 only. They should have won by a lot more.
Yeah.
They just couldn't score. They need a goal scorer. Like Wellington.
Yeah. They had someone like him, you know, they're creating the chances.
They'd be up there with the big boys challenging for the...
You can't. And when you're playing someone like Al Nasr, who are the meanest defence in the league, you've got to take every chance. You've got to take every half chance. And unfortunately didn't. Like I mentioned before, Rochevelle had a superb opportunity to score.
Yeah, that's his name.
Didn't.
I can't think of his name. 2, didn't he have 2?
Yeah.
2
really
good chances.
And
one went wide and one over the bar.
His form's just dipped a little bit. You know, at the start of the season, he was traditionally a midfielder. They pushed him up front and scored a couple of goals. I think due to a couple of injuries and a bit of other players out of form, these players have then come back. So he's gone back into midfield, and I think I prefer him up front. He looked a bit more clinical, but because he's been playing midfield recently, he's probably not had the chances in front of goal they would naturally have, which is a shame.
Interesting point.
But a combination of some great saves and last ditch defending from Al Dhafra kept it to 2-0. You know, it could have probably been 3 or 4 by the end of it, but they looked good. They worked together as a team. They really worked hard together. They didn't want to give anything away. Just at the end of the day, those 2 golden opportunities at the start of the game has cost them, really.
Yeah, it has. And but what do you think to Al Nasr? Are they going to do the bit? Do you think? I mean, we've got Sharjah, Al Nasr, Al Jazira. What do you think?
Well, Sharjah were my tip when they start, and they were brushing everyone away. Their form just seems to be dipped a little bit. They're still getting results, but not playing as well as they were. Al Jazira look so strong, don't they? Every game they seem to be getting better and better and better, and their style of play is, we mentioned, and the other week Bernard mentioned it, you know, the European style of football. Their manager's coached at Ajax, he's coached all over Europe, and you can see that the way they're playing, and they've got the players to play that. Al Nasr, defensively, like we've mentioned, really, really strong.
They're there or thereabout.
That's going to be the top 3. I think it could be Al Jazira, and then Al Nasr might even pip at Sharjah. But we'll have to wait and see.
We'll see. It's interesting to see. Okay, thanks for that, Ian. Okay, we're moving on to Sharjah versus Hatta, and top of the table versus the bottom of the table. The whipping boys, as Robert likes to call them. He's not here today. It's Christmas. He's with his family. He apologises, but he will be here in the new year. Yeah. Do you think of Hatta, Ian? They haven't won all season.
No.
They've got 1 point. Sharjah, only 1 loss all season. Top of the table. It was underdogs versus the giants, you could say, and Hatta are having the worst season ever. But they've changed the manager. They brought in Vladimir. They are playing better football. We've all noticed that, and a couple of games have they made bad decisions, we believe.
Yeah.
You know, they're 2-0 up, and then they go parking the bus, they go to this defensive, bringing defensive, and they end up losing. And I have to say, this was a good game. It was a smashing game to watch, because it went Sharjah, who won the game 3-2. But before I go into the game, interestingly, the last 2 times these teams have played, Hatta won 3-1 away and 3-2 at home. I mean, can you believe, when I read that, I just thought, have they got this right here? So they were the team, you know, with that kind of record. You thought, well, maybe they could do the business again and win them again. But Sharjah won 3-2 at the Hamdan bin Rashid Stadium, Al Maktoum Stadium, on a Friday. Hatta forward Kevin Alexander came to close. You saw in the highlights. You can see in the highlights, came to close to scoring in the 15th minute, but it was blocked by the defence. That was the first chance Hatta had. But again, they've had a problem scoring and defending. Then Luan Pereira almost broke the deadlock on the 26th minute. There was lots of action. It was a cracking game, really was. But Sharjah, the king, eventually broke the deadlock with Shaheen Abdullah. He headed the ball from a corner on the half-hour mark to put Sharjah 1 up. But Hatta came back and levelled it, Ian. You saw that. It was a lovely goal by Saeed Suleiman. Hit a shot. It was lucky. It got a big deflection off his arm and went in the corner, but it was a goal. And then step in Wellington. He's your favourite player, isn't he? And he's a top goal scorer now. He regained Sharjah's lead 2 minutes before the break. He almost regained their lead. My apologies. It was blocked by the keeper. Then Hatta scored. Al Hussein Salah from the left wing. What a fantastic goal. I mean, it took a deflection, but it all counts. And he got a great goal in stoppage time from the left wing. Sharjah came back with Wellington. He netted the equaliser on the 48th minute. It kind of had a couple of chances, didn't it? It went back and forth, but he kind of toe-poked it into the net to make it 2-2. And then Sharjah, Wellington came in and scored a beautiful header, bringing his tally to 11 goals. He's now the top goal scorer. I know he's Ian's favourite player. Do you think he'll win the Golden Boot? I mean, Igor looks good. João Pedro looks good.
Yeah, I think you've got to look what's behind him, who's feeding him. You know, you've got Colorado's.
We've got another assist.
Wellington was the main man, isn't it? But like I think we said last week, his desire. You know, he wants to score goals. He wants to be in action. You know, he will chase every ball down. These sort of half chances, he will do everything he can to get on the end of the ball. You know, which is absolutely great considering, you know, his age. I think he's 34.
Yeah, he
so
is.
A lot of that time, people are slowing down.
He's a player to watch out for.
He's the opposite.
He's doing the business at the moment. I think that's why Sharjah are where they are.
Yeah,
a lot of it. He rescues them a lot. I've watched the game. I can't do it justice. It's a cracking game. And again, Hatta played well. They are playing well, but they just can't defend. I mean, I'm thinking of the word leaky, but I need something more. I need a better adjective to describe their defence. Vladimir has to do something because he's got them playing well. You can see the confidence up, but they just can't. They can't buy a win here.
No,
they really can't, and they need to do something. Let's see. I think a win might springboard them, but I think it's a win too late.
Yeah.
In their next game. All right, but please watch the game. You'll enjoy it. All right, let's move on to our next game, Ian. You are
Al Jazira versus Ajman.
Yeah, Al Jazira, my team.
Every game for Ajman and the same for Hatta are must-wins out there. They're cup finals. They've got to win every game, and they didn't. You know, predictions at the start of the game, you would have said probably a quite comfortable 3-4, 5-0 win for Al Jazira, and eventually it did end up that way. Ended up 3-0.
Yeah, it didn't start like that. Ajman played well, I thought.
Yeah, they did, but it wasn't until about 74th minute that actually Al Jazira scored. But previous to that, it was Ajman were doing okay. You know, there were some nice passages of play from them, but ultimately they still didn't look as though they were going to score a goal.
Even the chances they had didn't take them well.
72% possession from Al Jazira. They had over 400 more passes than Ajman, so it just tells how much time they had on the ball. And in terms of shots, Al Jazira had 20 compared to Ajman's 5. So that tells a big story.
Yeah.
But they were better. They're getting there slowly. But the problem is, as Hatta's issue is their defence. They just don't know what they're doing. Whether it's the players aren't quite good enough, the formation isn't quite working. When you look at the goals and the highlights, the space between the midfield and defence is absolutely huge. Players are picking these balls up in huge amounts of space, being able to turn under no pressure, being able to run forward.
These are quality.
They can pick their passes. And the poor back four are just there, almost like rabbits in headlights. Yeah. There's nothing they can do. There's just a mass of players coming at them all the time. And you watch, you can just see the midfield players almost making token efforts to come back.
Yeah.
They're trotting back. They look as though they're doing just enough, and it's not good enough. And that's the main problem. And you cannot give these Al Jazira players the opportunity.
No,
these are some of the best players in the league.
Yeah, they are.
They're international players. You got, Ali Maktoum scoring goals for fun, and if you give him half a yard, he's going to take that.
They look quality in that game, and Omar Abdul Rahman, and they still haven't got Amouche yet to come back, and that's only going to help.
That's 6 in a row for Al Jazira, and they are hot on the tails of Sharjah. The points are exactly the same. They've got a better goal difference than Sharjah. They're only there because of the head-to-head that Sharjah beat them. And the way it's going, Al Jazira are going to be, we'll be league champions. It only takes one slip, and I don't think at the moment Al Jazira are going to make that slip.
No, I don't think so. So I was looking at Ajman because I know we did an interview with Bernard, who was the technical director. He said, look out for the young player, defender Rakan. But he had another nightmare. He had a bit of a mare the game before and this game.
But when you're not getting support from the midfield and the forwards, you can't.
Well, he did mention that the midfield they do like quality, and they like that pass play support combination, and that's why they always like to play that 4-4-3. Yeah, 3 players up front so they can immediately pass. But you say they keep leaving that gap.
That's a huge gap, and the problem is when the opposition have got the ball. No matter what formation you're playing, you've got to get back, you've got to get compact and get everyone in tight, almost like at the edge of the 18-yard box, all of your players have got to be inside that area, so they're not giving you any spaces, but they're not. You've got players all over the place, you've got players out on the left wing, the right wing, and then, like I said, there's just a wave of players coming through, and the defenders are there thinking, well, do I go and press the ball? So if I go and press it, then that's going to create a space here. Yeah. Do I stay? Then they just keep driving on at us. Do I sit back? They've got no answers because of what's happening or not happening in training. If I was in charge of that team, they need to work every day, every hour on just getting compact in defence, back to basics, getting everyone in behind organised. The ball. Just get whoever, get the reserve team, just driving at them. Session after session, drill after drill, and just get them blocking the area, block. Then when they've got the ball, then they can expand the game, then they can look to play forward quickly. But it's no good doing that when they're 3 or 4-0 down and they're only getting sort of 30% possession.
Because when they do play, they can play well. Yeah. You can see that in the game. You can see what Ian's talking about. Have a look at the highlights, as you can see happening. But they do need to get something organised because it's just putting each and every week more pressure on the coach. And I believe,
and I'm not talking about playing defensively or parking the bus or being negative.
Just playing more organised.
They've got to be organised and they've got to be compact. And if they don't do that, they are at the bottom of the league or second or bottom for a reason. And that is it.
Only by 1 point. They even had a win. They're winless, aren't they, this season? 2 draws. Winless. All right, let's move on to our next game, which is Khor Fakkan versus Al Wasl. And an interesting game because you think of Al Wasl. Look at the players. They're a fantastic team. On paper, they really are. And have a look at it. They've got some incredible players. They made some great signings, and we spoke about Ali Salah, the young player, the Emirati, Scottish mum. Nike have signed him. He looks a phenomenal young player. I think you mentioned the youngest.
Yeah, I think he's the youngest player to play in the Pro League at just over. I think it was just after his 16th birthday.
Yeah. So they've got some really, really good players and made some good signings, but they're like this. But I think they've found a little bit of form here, and playing against Khor was an opportunity to keep that good playing that they have been playing, the way they've been playing, keeping it going, and they managed to scrape a win.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to say. Have a look at the highlights. You can see there's not a lot to write home about. I've got lots of friends at our Wasl, and they've changed. What are the manager? Third manager, and we're only 12 games into the season. It's pretty incredible. It's not good for the team. It's not good for morale. But I think they needed to make these changes for a number of reasons, which I won't go into. But as you can see, what's happening with the game, it's played at Khor, who are playing good football. Goran's brought him in. I think they will stay in the league. They're playing well. And what I like about Khor, when they play them lower teams, they do the business. They do struggle sometimes against the teams in the higher echelons of the league, but they do try and they do play well. And they've got some good players, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Who are playing well. And I think Khor will comfortably stay up. But just to give you a breakdown, they did have chances, Ian, I've got to say that. And against they took up the top higher level, or the teams at the top of the table, they do try to go for it. They don't park the bus and think, we come here not to lose, like Fujairah did. They go out. It's the end of episode 8, our show. Ian and I, and no doubt Robert too, would like to wish you all the best for the new year. In fact, by the time this show's uploaded, Ian, I think everybody would have enjoyed the new year. So enjoy the new year. If not, and I know we will.
Yeah.
And we'd like to say thank you for watching our show. It's something new. Please bear with us. We'll get there. We're getting better. But we're hoping in 2021 that we're going to have a different format. Try to make it a little bit more interesting now. We're getting better and more confident in what we do and say. So bear with us and please help us out. Remember, we're doing this voluntary, aren't we? And it's not like we're getting paid ridiculous money, even though it would be nice. I think I've said that before, Ian, but it would be nice. But please, make a comment. Tell us what you think, where we can improve. We always say the biggest room in the world is room for improvement here, and we want to do that. Anything you want to say before we look at the table, Ian?
Just to reiterate what Tony said, really, just make sure you comment, subscribe, give us something to work with. We're going to try and go a little bit more interactive, aren't we, in the new year?
Yeah. And as we've already said, we've got some interviews coming up. We're trying to get the viewpoint of players, what they think, how they feel, especially after 2020 being a difficult year, to say the least. So we've got some really cool stuff coming up in the new year. But I thought we'd finish off with the table, looking at the table and our predictions for week 12. So Ian, looking at the table, we've already had a look. Sharjah on top for the new year. Al Jazira second. They're actually, because of their head-to-head, Ian, I don't know, you know the ruling on this.
Yeah, so it's the same points, aren't they? But because Sharjah beat Al Jazira, they're on top. So it's games against.
Okay. But is that same as La Liga do something similar?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so something like that. So if you see that, and then you've got teams like Al Nasr, Banyas, Alain, Al Wahda, they're pushing a little bit.
Those top three are the most consistent, aren't they? Sharjah, Al Jazira and Al Nasr are the three most consistent teams, and that's obviously why they're there.
My dark horse is Banyas, because they're playing well at the moment.
Yeah, they are.
They had that little hiccup, but they are playing really, really well. I think, watch out. Watch this space, okay? And again, at the bottom of the table, Ian, no surprise.
No, Hatta at bottom, Ajman just above them. It's not looking good, is it? We're halfway through the season now. They both need miracles, and there is signs of improvement from actually both teams going forward. Defensively, they're still both really struggling.
This is the biggest problem.
And as we've mentioned on many occasions, every game's a cup final for them.
It is.
They've got to win. Draws aren't enough now. They need wins, and
I think Khor and Fujairah. I'm actually commentating on that game in Fujairah. That's going to be a relegation battle, as we said, a 6-pointer. It'd be interesting to see who wins. But we're going to do our predictions now, Ian, yeah?
Yeah.
And let's have a look at them. Our predictions for... Just let me get them up, Ian. So, predictions, Ian. I got your predictions here. Fujairah versus Khor. What do you think? That is we just mentioned a 6-pointer.
Big 6-pointer, isn't it? Both teams need the points. I think
Goran's returning his old club.
To his old club, so he's obviously got a score to settle there. He wants to win. They both play good football. They've both got some outstanding players. They just haven't quite got it all together at once. It's going to be very, very close. It's going to be a close game, entertaining game, I'm sure. They'll both want the points. They'll be going for the win. Like I said before, a point isn't enough. So it should be entertaining. There's going to be goals. I think it could be 1-1, 2-2, something like that.
I think most of you'll already have these scores when we upload this episode. So you'll know the score already. But Bernard's going for a draw. You're going for a draw. I'm going for a draw too. I just can't. They'll both go to win, but they have leaky defences. If anybody wins, Fujairah should do it. After I saw them last week, Fujairah have a good chance of winning. Your team, Sharjah versus Ajman.
Well,
it's how many, not whether they're going to win.
Exactly. It should, on paper, it should be 4-5, 6-0. Really, it just depends on.
Ajman, we have to say they are playing a little bit better football.
They are playing a bit better football.
But they do have a leaky defence.
Yeah, Sharjah. No, 3-0.
3-0. I think Bernard went for a 2 or 3-0 as well, and I'm going for a 2 or 3-0. And sorry, we're not very exciting, are we, when it comes to these predictions? The game of the week, the local derby, two of the biggest teams in the UAE, Al Ain versus Al Jazira. Be a brave man to predict a win here. What are you going for?
I think if you look back to last week's round of games, Al Jazira were playing Hatta, I think.
Yes,
quite an easy, quite a comfortable game. Almost a bit like a training game, really. They didn't really have to exert too much energy, too much out of the game. So I think they'll be going to this game very, very fresh. Where I believe Al Ain played Kalba, quite a tough game. One game, a lot of hard work from both teams.
Yeah,
I think they'll be going into this game a little bit more jaded. They've got a few injuries, so I think Al Jazira will edge it. That will help Al Jazira. They'll edge it on that front, and I think probably 2-1 Al Jazira.
Yeah, very good analysis. I'm going for a draw there. Al Ain at home, the two big teams, and Al Ain, they won't want to lose this.
No.
But Al Jazira will go. They'll be going there to play to win. I think Al Ain will want to win, but they don't want to lose either because they want to keep in touch. I'm going for a draw. Kalba versus Hatta. What do you think, Ian?
Local-ish derby, along that sort of East Coast area. Like we said before, Hatta, desperate for win. They've got to go out there and play to win. So that could go either way, couldn't it? I'm assuming if they're going to go out to play to win, that could create a lot of spaces in behind their defence, lots of areas for people like David Mariani to exploit, because we know what a good player he is when he gets on the ball and gets time. Kalba are team, they went to Al Ain, drew against a decent team,
and they're playing well.
So really, it should be a
foregone conclusion.
A Kalba win, a 2-0 really.
Yeah, I'm going for a win for Kalba. The thing is, Bernard predicted a win for Kalba. I think Hatta will be going not to lose the game. Kalba will be going to win the game, and I really do think they'll park the bus and try to get a breakaway goal, or Hatta will be happy with a draw.
Yeah.
So I think it could end up a draw, that. But Kalba should win. It'll either be a Kalba win or a draw. I'm going to go on the fence on that one, Ian. All right, Ian. Al Nasr versus Al Wahda. Dubai versus Abu Dhabi.
Again, Al Nasr need to win to stay in contention with the top two. We know how good they're defensive and how well they're organised. Al Wahda, again, a little bit inconsistent on the day. I think they could beat anybody.
Yeah, they can on the day. It's the Al Wahda who turns up.
But I think you'd be mad to go against Al Nasr, and I think they might edge it 1-0.
Yeah, I think Al Nasr will win. I don't think Al Wahda will win. I think if they get a draw would be a fantastic result for them. Okay, Banyas versus Al Dhafra, another local derby. Not as big as Al Ain versus Al Jazira, but Banyas again on fire at the moment, playing really well. What do you think, Ian?
They are, aren't they? They had that superb start to the season, brilliant form, and had that little bit of a dip.
But they're back on
it again, and they play some really nice, attractive football.
Yeah, they are.
They get the ball down, they move it really, really quickly.
João Pedro scoring for fun.
He is, yeah. You know, when you've got a player like that, he needs a half chance to score. Al Dhafra, again, they're similar to Al Wahda, really. They could, on
Who's
the
going
day,
to turn up?
On the day they can play well. I think, yeah, Banyas will be desperate. They want to stay in contention. They want to push into that top three, and if they can get in that top three,
they're at
knows
home.
what could happen. So, yeah, Banyas 1 or 2-0.
Yeah, I am going with you, Ian. Finally, our Wasl versus draw specialist Robert's team, Shabab Al Athli.
Well, it's a draw, isn't it? It's got to be. Got to be a draw.
It'd be draw number 7 if it happens. I mean, 6 draws.
That'd be what, 7 out of 12 or something like that. It's just unbelievable.
New manager, they're away. Our Wasl, they're up and down, but they're on a bit of a run at the moment.
Yeah,
playing well,
but
and it's a local derby.
But it's Shabab Al Athli, isn't it? So it's got to be a draw.
Yeah,
got to be a draw.
I'm going for an Al Wasl win, 2-1 or 3-2. All right, I think that leaves it. You can check our predictions. I think, as we said already, it'll be uploaded. These games would have happened, and you can compare them with Bernard's, a very experienced man. And it'd be interesting to hear your comments, what you think to our predictions, what you think to our show finally. I don't think I've got anything else to say. I just say, look forward to the new year. We are going to have things different. We're going to do things different. We've got some awesome interviews coming up, and we want to connect you guys closer to the UAE Pro League and the players here. And then it makes watching the game easy. And you can watch all these games on Abu Dhabi Sports. Click on the subtitles or language. You can change it to English. You can listen to an Ian and I giving commentary on the games. I don't have anything else to say.
No, just thank you very much for your views, your subscribes, your likes, and like Tony said, just comment as much as you possibly can.
Your feedback's invaluable.
It is important. And like I said, we're going to try and get a little bit more interactive. We're going to work with a lot more players. We're going to focus on coaches. We may even look at the Division 1 as well, and look at the teams that are potentially coming up into the Pro League to see how they're going to fare. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the new year.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks to Gavel, our cameraman, and Khalid, who's helped us out in the past. Invaluable help. Okay, see you in the new year.